Hi, and welcome back to the episode of History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and today's episode, I'm going to get into some really fun things about fan mail. So I went through archives and pulled a whole pile of really cool, letters and requests for dubs and then fan subs and that kind of stuff from back in the day. And I'm starting to sorting them out, okay, and putting them into the binders and stuff like that to kind of basically, you know, to organize them by name so that when certain names come up, then I might be able to look them up in the index and find out, how I interact with them. But as I'm going along, I'm noticing that there are different categories for these fan mail. So I'm basically going to go through them and go through each one by various different topics. Okay. So before I get into some of the examples and some of the things that are in these mails, I want to remind people to go down below and click like and click subscribe because that helps out the YouTube algorithm, as well as if you have some comments and maybe some stories of your own about when getting started in anime and that kind of stuff. By all means, write it down below. I'd love to hear your story as well. Okay. If you'd like to support me financially, I do have the super thanks button below, so that you can click on that, as well as I do have the PayPal and Patreon links there. I have a whole now up to 15 episodes of subscriber specific content. And there's one now. I've also managed to find a whole pile of other neat things that I'm going to go through. I managed to find the hentai catalog that I used to have in my store. So when people come into the store and need their hentai fix, yes, I have an entire binder sorted in alphabetical order for that. So again, one of the episodes I'm going to go through that manually and go through some of the titles and make my recommendations of some of the again, usually when people go through the binder going, hey, is this thing really good? And like, of course, there's what you got? You got girls that have things with blowing off clothes and tentacles and that kind of stuff. What can be there? That's all the good stuff is all in there. So so anyway, those type of episodes I obviously can't put on YouTube, but I can put in the subscriber section. So definitely you want to check that out. All right. So today's episode is about fan mail. So basically, back in the day, especially back in the time period. This is 1988 to about 1991 and into the 90s. The concept of getting mail electronically, especially before the internet as we know it, is really, really difficult. A lot of people, on the various different forums and things, always comment that it was very difficult to get anime because if you didn't know somebody, there was really no way to get anime, right? The connections, the basically, if you basically had to know somebody in order to get to be in the know, right? So it's a or a friend of a friend of a friend type of thing, right? In some ways, okay. In other ways, if you manage to get your hands on a source, a lead, okay, then it continues, okay. So basically, in this episode, I want to go through some fan mail, and I want to outline some of the ways that people would have got in touch with me by just the way they wrote their letters, okay. And so I'm going to go through the different examples and show you not only just the various different types of mails I've gotten, but then you can also see where the source of their information is. Because obviously, there is no kind of quote internet, website as it were, right? Because even things like GeoCities and that kind of stuff wasn't invented at this time. There are, the standard poster and flyer type of a distribution, but that only works around Vancouver, right? That's usually used for our Vancouver club meetings and that kind of stuff, around here. But what happens to people who are just, in the middle of nowhere in, Wisconsin or something like that, or Utah? How would you know where to get your anime from? And so we're going to go through some of the examples here of some people that in the past and how they've managed to get anime. All right. So, without further delay, let's look at some fan mail. Okay, so this letter comes from a Linda Hewan from Winnipeg, Manitoba. All right, she writes, we finally received those tapes of Maison Akaku that you sent, and I must say they are very good. Thank you very much for myself and my friends. We had a little Maison Video Fest, and the videos arrived. My brother lent some of the tapes to his buddy. So this is the buddy of a friend, a friend of a friend thing, right? This buddy, this is the buddy who usually supplies us with the anime. It was a change to lend him some tapes. So obviously, once you get into the cycle of lending or borrowing tapes to your friend, then this is your chance to actually repay him by actually getting some new anime that he doesn't have, and then basically be able to trade it, right? Anyway, as you might suspect, he got hooked on it, and who can blame him? This brings us to why we're writing this longer thank you letter. The plan: my brother's buddy is willing to pay for half of the to obtain the rest of the Maison tapes. Wow, he's generous. So basically, you gotta think, here you are, you're watching a series that you really get hooked onto, and this is probably part typical with the Maison Akaku, Orange Road, Pat Labor. I mean, a lot of these type of series which you get started and you really just are just absolutely fascinated with the series, and you just you have to get the rest of it. And this is really pretty common, pretty typical, right? And so for once, using the friend of a friend, and then of course getting some contacts, what little anime you do get, you kind of spread around and you kind of share with all the other people, in your sort of knitted group, right? And hopefully, all the efforts, shall we say, that you all sort of go through to get anime, you're able to share it as a pool, and that's something that again, it doesn't happen in the modern day. All you can just say is sort of like, hey, check this out, I'm watching this anime, and then maybe you might be interested in looking at it, or maybe not, right? And I think in this era, people were exposed to a lot of different animes, things that they might not have watched. For example, I guess this guy wouldn't have watched Maison Akaku, but all of a sudden after watching a little bit, he got really hooked on it, and it's like, wow, this is actually a pretty good series. So, I'd like to get the rest of it, sort of thing, right? So, this is a good example of that kind of dynamic. The next letter is from Pete Chaka from Hattsville, Maryland. And he writes, this is kind of interesting. He basically says, this should be my last request for core tapes for at least for a little while, because of budget constraints I can't afford as much on anime as I like to. Besides, I have to save up money for those Maison Ikaku tapes. Although, I hate the idea of having Orange Road on lower quality 6-hour tapes, but for now, that's that or nothing at all. So basically, he has to choose, can I afford to get 12 tapes and put all the Orange Road episodes on it, or to kind of put it into 6-hour speed and reduce the 12 tapes down to 4 tapes. And it's lower quality, but it lets you finish the series in a much more economical way. And some people have to do that. I mean, it makes sense. Maison Akaku is obviously going to be a lot worse because it's twice as large, right? But he puts at the very bottom here. I, for one, really appreciate the effort that must have gone into this project. I certainly have no complaints about the final product. And he writes, well, except for one small thing, there are a few scenes where writing a sign or a note plays a part, and these aren't always translated. So I'm afraid I might be missing something important. And he's interesting that he mentions that is because part of that, shall I say, whole that we have in our translations, but as I explained earlier, a lot of these translations that Daisuke does, he doesn't do it off the video. He does it off of the audio. So he'll take like the entire Orange Road episode, record it to an old-fashioned tape recorder, right? So he just has just the audio. And then he uses one of these old-fashioned shoebox Radio Shack cassette players, right? So that he can basically use his foot to control the play, stop, fast forward and rewind buttons, right? To basically go through the dialogue so that he can plays part of the dialogue, press a stop, then he can use his hands to type on the keyboard what the dialogue is. So obviously, for example, in Orange Road, where Kyosuke is going around spying around and whatnot, and there's that sign that says, beware of, stalkers or peepers. And all of a sudden he picks up the sign and hides it. Obviously you wouldn't know that sign was there if you're just listening to the audio, right? Because he doesn't say anything. All you hear is some girls kind of giggling and shrieking, and him kind of embarrassed and laughing, right? So obviously nothing translated goes on the screen, but there's a significant sign that probably should have got translated. And then of course when I get the translation, I'm just looking at what the dialogue comes in. I'm just concerned about where the dialogue gets cued, and so I probably would have missed over that as well, just because again, that's not one of the cued pieces of dialogue, right? Because I'm listening to see when the next piece of dialogue is supposed to show up, and according to the cue list on the subtitle file, there was no dialogue there, so obviously no subtitles, nothing goes in there, right? So it's kind of one of those kind of loopholes that kind of get lost and forgotten in a lot of the early translations. So that's a good way that he mentions that. Okay, so the next letter is from a William Barnes from Adelphi, also from Maryland. Okay, so even from the same state, you can get obviously a lot of people that are even just very close to each other still have no access to anime together, right? But yeah, he writes interested in getting a whole bunch of different various anime, Orange Road the OVAs, Orange Road the movie. I had assembled insert 1 and 2 on the same tape as the Orange Road movie. I had a mixtape sort of with Borgman Lover's Reign, the last episode of Double Zeta Gundam, which was based off the translation of the novel rather than the actual TV series, but and he wants some 300 episodes, Venus Wars, Golf Force, Earth Chapter 1 and 2, or sorry, 2 and 3, Ariel, all four OVAs for Ariel, Pat Libert P2, so that's the P series of OVAs, number 1, and then of course the 3 episodes of the TV series from that, and the Maison Kaku TV series 1 through 12, and again on 6-hour speed. Okay, so a fairly big list of different tapes and that kind of stuff he sent me. What the funny thing is that he writes this is, however, I am more than aware that you have far better things to do with your time than cater to the whims of an anime fan. As long as I get the Orange Road stuff to complete my collection, and the P2, and perhaps the Maison Kaku and the City Hunter, if any of these episodes have been completed yet, then I'll be more than content, and the above list is mostly wishful thinking on my part. Which is kind of interesting. So sort of like, I know you have better things to do than to copy tapes or read, but as long as I get my stuff, it's okay. So it's kind of like right. But in the light, you look at the top here. He wrote his letter on January 15th, 1992. And I wrote on, and I usually what I do is when I send the tapes back to the person, I usually go back to the actual letter and I write down the dates. As you may notice on a couple of these letters that you see the dates on them. The dates are when I got his parcels and sent his tapes back. And sometimes I'll actually write which exact volumes and whatnot. But since he's got 2 bundles of tapes here, I completed all his tapes on February the 14th and sent them away. But you can tell that even though he sent his tapes on the 15th, it still took me about a month to complete the dubbing of the 7 tapes and to send it back to him. Okay, so this isn't no Amazon type of thing where you're gonna get it in the next day or 2 days, right? This is literally you send away for it, and you may have to wait a month or 2 months. Especially if you live farther away, for the post office to take its toll and actually get it to you, passing customs and inspections and all that other stuff. So this is a good indication that yes, it does take time to do these things. And and people have to be ready to wait, and so this is a good example of one such order. Okay, and back to the bottom of the letter, he goes, "My sincere thanks to you and your group's efforts on behalf of all anime fandom. The service you perform is invaluable and cannot be fully repaid with either money or words." And he writes, "Well, maybe money, but I haven't got enough of that as it is." So it's kind of lots of funny little jabs and that kind of stuff in this, but really kind of a fun letter, that's for sure. Okay, so the next one is from an Alan out of San Jose, California, And this one's kind of funny because he goes, I'm requesting 2 year several works, Yoju Kyotsu and Pat Labor 1. Now, of course, and it also includes the photocopy of your driver's license, which was required. Never mind the ugly picture. Anyway, so obviously I blocked that out for security, obviously. Yoju Kyotsu, better known by the name Demon Beast Invasion. And again, to do my supposed due diligence, because of H titles, you're required to show a picture of ID. And so that's one of the ways that they've done that. Again, we do one of the few clubs that actually did any of that kind of stuff. One of these days I'll have to do an episode about the disparity of what we did against everyone else that was out there in the market. It's just it was quite a difference in the market, that's for sure. Okay, so this letter comes from a Louis Amberiz out of Stockton, California. And he writes, I have read about your animation club and want to thank you for subtitling many fine unsubtitled works. I belong to an anime club here in America called Club Anime. So, not the most creative name, I'm sure, but hey, it works. So, obviously the club in Stockton, basically will now be able to watch a lot of anime of Orange Road at their club meetings and that kind of stuff. And that's how a lot of people got started. They start little clubs in their little town or little school or anything like that, and they just sort of build out from there. They find out some contacts, and they start getting anime from different places, and they share it amongst themselves. And so that's what more of this friend of a friend, or get into this sort of community thing in your little area, which is something that we don't really have in the modern day anime fandom. Okay, so the next one is from a Mike Neoforth out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And he writes, I haven't seen a recent list of the animation your group has made available. It has become general consensus among my local fan group, the Metro Science Fiction Society, that we should order from you much more of this anime that is unavailable to us in the central run of events. And subtitling is also an added bonus. I personally have ordered from you before and was impressed with the quality of the product I received. That being said, I'd like to order some Pat Labor, some Freya, and Soul Bianca and Kima Orange Road. Okay, so he mentions basically that his fan group is the Metro Science Fiction Society, and this is one of those situations where obviously the interest in anime and that kind of stuff isn't large enough to make your own anime club, but instead anime just becomes a part of another type of club. In this case, it's a science fiction society, right? And in much the same way that we began over here, a lot of the interest in fandom and that kind of stuff in anime came from the science fiction community. And as I said, before we had an anime specific convention in Vancouver, we did a lot of stuff in conjunction with comic book conventions, like little comic book meets and that kind of stuff. We also participated a lot with the VCon, which is the Science Fiction Society here in Vancouver. And that kind of thing is, very common. Sometimes I know in other areas, people, join in with either the Star Trek people or the Star Wars people in a science fiction convention type of thing. That always happens in the early outset of this. So this is just an example of how, if anime isn't big enough of a draw by itself, in order to get more sort of recognition, you join up or you become part of something else, another sort of genre to help boost up the numbers and membership and that kind of stuff. And definitely that's another way that that we get awareness. Okay, so I'd like to thank you for making it this far. So I'm going to finish off the video with basically just showing some examples of just regular orders. I mean, it's all of these ones I've gone through have significant things that they've said and whatnot. So I went through those ones. But there's obviously lots of orders that you get from just regular, ordinary people. And so I just wanted to go through and just give a shout out to these people who've done orders, just to give you an idea that the normal people do all sorts of stuff. So here you go. We start off with Kevin Chin. And he orders like Pat Labor, Signature, The Record of Lawless Wars, La Puta, My Neighbor Totoro, Macross. and a whole bunch of a whole bunch of assortment of City Hunter episodes. Very good, and his internet address is out of TI, so TexasInstruments.com. All right, shout out goes to Andrew Becker out of Fort Collins, Colorado. He orders Pat Labor the movie. On the next letter, he writes, I love the quality and the excellence in the Pat Labor the movie. So he decides to order the Dirty Pair Project Eden movie. So again, thank you very much. The next one is Alex Barber out of Vienna, Virginia. And he writes he wants 3 movies. He wants The Golf Earth Chapter 2 and 3, Gundam 0080, and Pat Labor the movie. Thank you very much. Next one is for an Alex Avery, and he's out of San Francisco, California, and he's ordering the entire Orange Road saga as well as the Record of Lotus Wars. Thank you very much. Okay, next one is from a Todd Jayanama out of Ottawa, Ontario, and he's one that sent in a bunch of tapes and forgot to put his name on it. So, and what he wanted on it. So, I guess he's gonna email me back and tell me, oh yeah, copy these things on these tapes for me. So that happens as well. Jonathan Bohannon out of Escondido, California, and he's asking for Record of Lotus Wars Volume 1. Thank you very much. Stuart Abbott out of Scantanellis Falls, New York. He's ordering the rest of the series for Orange Road to the end, so thank you very much. Gregory Berardi out of New York, New York, and he's asking for a copy of Macross the movie. Thank you very much. Rick Dubé out of Seattle, Washington, and he's basically asking for the entire Orange Road series on 4 tapes. So thank you very much. Okay, and the final one I'm going to do here is for an R. Bain out of Morristown, New Jersey. He's part of the Japanese Animation Maniac Society, JAMS. And he's asking for Record of Lotus Wars, the first volume for that. So that should be really good to start off his fan club in Morristown. All right. I hope you found that very interesting. And basically, I will have more episodes with more content and more reflections of basically, what these fan mails, reveal about the history of anime and how they, occurred. And basically, I've covered a lot of these topics. Now it's just it's refreshing and you can see for yourself in the mail and the things that other people have commented about. Basically just reinforces what I've been trying to tell you guys and trying to illustrate to you this environment. So this hopefully fills it out better. Basically gives you that a better picture, I guess you can say, of what it would be like to be an anime fan back in the 90s when we were just getting this anime thing started. All right. So again, don't forget to go down below, click like and subscribe for that, because there will be more. All right. So until next time, I will see you again.